So, vehicles. As you can see, I've started doing Warthogs, and the coloration for these is based on the Vespin Rocket Warthog, which was a DLC for Halo 5. And the only reason I know this is because I looked it up, because I wanted to see if I could find more pictures, more screen grabs of this particular color scheme. And it's going to have some tiger stripe kind of things on it, and it's mostly just black and yellow. Not exactly what I was expecting to paint for the Warthogs. So what I did, yellow is a bitch to paint. If you don't know this already, yellow is a bitch. But what has been helpful is Warcolor's One Coat Yellow is a godsend. You can just run it straight through the airbrush, which is what I did, and it really does coat just, you know, straight off. The only problem with it is that it's a very kind of lemony yellow. I wanted something a little richer, so after it dried, I added some Cassandor. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. There's some gunk on there. Cassandor yellow shade from Citadel. It's a little orangey, but it does enrich it. And then when I did some super light yellow, really kind of white highlights, and once I block all the colors in, I'm going to go back and do some weathering. And once I get that all done, it should be about right where I want it. So there we go. And I got, well, I'm not going to show you, but I got all the ghosts prepared. I was able to pull that missing piece from the extra set that I had. So those are going to be ready to go. This project is close. I've got about another hour or so of work to do today, and that'll get me through some of the base coating of the Warthogs, and then all day tomorrow. I'm not taking any days off this week because I'm a little far behind where I want to be. So yeah. Okay, I have a little speed painting tip for those of you with airbrushes. So after doing the base coat over the black primer, obviously there was going to be overspray because I had to bring the yellow up underneath the body. So rather than have to go through and cover everything else in the undercarriage with a brush, I was able to actually airbrush a lot of this back in without worrying too much about overspray. And the way you do that is that you airbrush from a direction where you know you're going to have the least impact on the color you're trying to avoid. Now, also because this is the undercarriage, a little bit of overspray is not a problem, because that is just going to add to the weathering that we're going to do later. But even in this case, like that's all the overspray I ended up getting, was that little bit right in here and a little bit right over there, because I was able to, you know, shoot essentially 3/4 of this panel that way. So all the overspray is headed off of the model. You flip it around and you do the other side, and you're able to cover all of that. These struts, the parts that hold the wheels there, if you shoot it from sort of up in that direction, you're not really going to get much on the undercarriage. And this panel here underneath the struts, when you're shooting between these two pieces, you're not going to get any overspray at all, because that's acting like a mask that's keeping your spray pretty focused. I was even able to do some of the bumper because you can shoot it that way and keep it off of the undercarriage. And even up here at the winch, again, you just need to be careful, but then, you know, you can hit it from this direction and cover most of it, and then you just go back in with a brush and just hit all the little areas that you missed, and it takes a lot less time than having to brush paint the whole thing again. I was even able to do some of this, like this is all going to be black anyway, so I essentially focused on the interior here and here, and then where you see overspray, well, that's all going to be black, but I was going to do that with a brush. So that's what I'm going to go do now, and then I'll come back. All right, so I went ahead and tightened up the black on the undercarriage and up above here. And then I put in the striping. I essentially have two different kinds. I've got the standard Vespin rocket version of the kind of tiger stripes, and then I've got this other one with added tan, or really earth color. I used earth, Game Air, Vallejo Game Air Earth, to get the tan stripes. And what I'm doing right now is dropping in some Nuln oil into the panel lines to better define them, because without the Nuln oil, it's got that buildup of the yellow shade, and I didn't like that. So I am darkening that up with the Nuln oil. And then I'm going to go back and start doing some highlighting. And when I am done with that, I have all of the, I don't know what you call them, the top pieces. It's kind of, it's the windshield and such that goes like that. But as you can see, they're not even primed yet. I have cleaned them up, and I made sure that they all fit. As you can see there, drops right in. And those are just black. So that'll make this really easy to do. A little black, a little highlighting. And then I've got the tires to do. And when that's all done, I can do the weathering. So I think there's a, well, okay, I forgot. I also have to paint the drivers. But I do believe that there's a reasonable chance that I can finish these in the day. I can hope, anyway. So I'll come back in a little while at some point and show you my progress. Okay, so the vehicle portion of this is done. I still need to do the gunners. 4 gunners is next up on my list. But the Warthogs themselves are done. As you can see, I used the airbrush a bit on the windshield. I was asked for a smoky red violet, and that is exactly what I did. And so this is actually Warcolor's purple, and their purple is a red purple. And so this is 5, 4, and 3 applied with an airbrush, and then 2 done as edge highlighting with a brush. Pretty happy with how that came out. And yeah, this is it's interesting. I kind of like the color. It makes them look like dune buggies more than military vehicles as far as I'm concerned. But having looked at the screenshots for these things from the Halo 5 DLC, I think I did a pretty reasonable job. The designs of these models are not exactly the same as the 3D models in that DLC, so there are some differences, and I've essentially tried to recreate the feel of them, even if I couldn't do, all the bits and parts that are on the 3D model that aren't on this. There's a little bit more silver, I think, in the DLC, and it's got these. I'm not even sure what you call them, but little bars that attach around here that would have been silver, and there's no bumper on the DLC, and yeah, so overall, you know, I did as best I could to recreate the feel of those things. So now, on to the guns. So now that I have this all done, you know, this reminds me of a Hot Wheel car. It's like just a little bit too outlandish, and the colors are so bright. I just would not be surprised to see it sitting in a blister pack on the shelf at the local Walmart. But hey, you know, it's what they asked for, so it's what they got. I do like the fact that the guns can rotate. I showed you that before, so it's not like it's a revelation, but now that it's all done, it's kind of neat. There's another one. And so now I'm going to move on to the ghosts. And after that, I've got some terrain bits to do. So let's do ghosts. All right. You know, obviously, I've sort of skipped ahead a little bit, as this happens normally when I am getting close to the end of the project. I kind of want to just get things done, especially when, you know, the end is so near. So we'll go over what I did here. And now obviously the grunt is painted pretty much like the grunt's infantry. And just FYI, I find that the sculpts of the grunts in the ghosts is better than the infantry. Of course, you're not seeing the whole thing, obviously, and you know, if you look closely at the areas that are kind of hidden by this, which you can't look closely at, you can see that he just sort of disappears into the rest of the vehicle. But the parts that you can see look really, really good. But I was also comparing them, you know, side by side, and frankly, they're really close. I just find, like, especially the arms and stuff are more defined. But let's talk about ghost colors. So these got black base, as everything did. The base coat for the ghost armor, you know, the shell part of it, or if this was a motorcycle, I'd call them fairings, was just, well, I mixed up a custom blue metallic, and as it turned out, it was pretty much identical to the War Colors blue metallic. So when I needed more, when I ran out, I just used the War Colors blue metallic. So the easiest way to tell you what I did is it's War Colors blue metallic. But then I needed to darken it because that blue metallic is pretty light, and I was trying to color match something. And I didn't get this as dark as I'd kind of wanted, but there's an issue. Like if you want a metallic, it's very difficult to do a dark metallic when you're mixing custom, because the metallic mediums are going to tend to lighten your base color. So really there's a kind of a basement on, you know, how dark you can get it and still have a nice metallic look. But anyway, here's the shade color. This is Joe Sonia Blue Violet, and I mixed it up with a lot of airbrush medium so that I'd have a really transparent color that I could easily work with and build it up slowly. And the way I did that with the airbrush is, you know, you kind of focus on you know, what you want to be sort of the recess areas. So for example, you know, go around this outer edge of this, focus on those things that you're sort of considering recesses, this little crease in here, and then you go back and then you kind of haze over the rest of it. And so what that does is it blends the two color, or, you know, the two areas together by creating this sort of overall coat it darkens the brightness on both parts. So the dark part gets darker and the light part gets darker, but they're both sort of staying highlighted properly or shaded properly. And you get a really nice blend. And I'm still getting the nice metallic sheen through there. And so I think this is pretty dead on to what I would think a ghost would look like IRL. And then I've just got some, I left the overspray on the other metallic parts and then just coated over it so that in the recesses it would continue to have some of that blue. And it's not really noticeable. It is in some parts, but I like it. I think it just adds to that kind of continuity of the whole thing. And the metallic is just Citadel Lead Belcher. It's sort of my go-to not too bright metallic color. I really like it. And it's actually dry brushed in and then layered on top of that. So that way I could kind of leave some dry brushing in the recesses and bring out the bigger areas of metallic that I wanted to be brighter by blocking it in more. So like, up here and a little bit on the guns and, this little piece back here. And of course this big piece right there. And aside from the blue, is pretty straightforward, very, very, very simple. But man, I really, really like that blue. I'm super, super happy with it. Kind of makes me want to do one of their tanks. The Banshee? Yeah, the Banshee would be cool in this scheme as well. And I'm just going to keep doing this because I really like how it interacts with the light, right? It does sort of get dark when the light's not on it. Duh. But no, seriously though, it's so cool. And I did start work on some of the terrain bits. Oh, I got one more. Hold on. Let's start with this one. This is sort of I don't know, it's like a shield, I guess. I know I've seen these things in the game. And so the base gray is, I believe that's Vallejo Cool Gray 4. I think that's right. And then there's a little bit of the same green in here, which is Panzer Green from Vallejo Model Air. I don't see it on the desk here anywhere handy. But yeah, I believe that's Panzer Green, but it's mixed with some airbrush medium, so it was very lightly applied, and because the two colors are very similar in tone, the effect is very subtle. Inside the kind of glass area is Warcolors Turquoise 5, and then that is just highlighted with Turquoise 1, with the sort of edge highlighting and some lighting glints in the glass, both sides. And of course, edge highlighting on the grays to really just make it pop, even though it's very dark grays. And I don't even remember which. It's probably Cool Gray 1. Doesn't make too much of a difference, honestly. It ends up kind of looking whitish on the piece anyway. But I'm very, very, very happy with how these turned out. I actually had a strange time with these pieces. I had a sample that I was trying to color match, and I ended up with like 3 different colors. And I think I would have been better off with the blue violet that I used on these. But this is okay too. And I'm not going to tell you what I did because, frankly, I don't even remember. I know there's some phthalo blue. I think I used some of the just straight up Warcolors Blue 5. And then I used to bring out some of the the details, I just use Nuln Oil with a brush. The final result is good. It was just the getting there was kind of a pain in the butt. And then these are real simple. They were 2 Citadel colors. This is, I know the highlight is Deathworld Forest, and the base is, oh, I should have had this hand. Oh, there it is. Castellan Green. Castellan Green and Deathworld Forest. And then this is actually the Stynylrez Gray primer with a wash of Cool Gray 4. And that's, you know, that's kind of it. Really straightforward, but they look really good. I'm very, very happy with this. The Castellan Green with the Deathworld Forest, that's a good combo. I like it. It's a very rich green. It's not like a, it's not, it approaches olive drab while still maintaining some actual green color to it. And so at this point, I need to finish the bases on these, and then I think I'm done with the game portion of this project. I still have the big models to do, but I think that's going to get done with a separate video series. So this won't be like part 5 when I do those. I think I'll just do those as a separate thing. And technically this project isn't finished because it's kind of coming in 2 parts. This is 2 complete box sets, 2 starter sets. And I have 1 more that kind of got added on later, so I don't have the time scheduled for it at the moment. And because I've already kind of covered how I would do all that, I'm not going to do another video that covers that unless for some reason I had to do something very different. So I think I will go ahead and finish it, and then I will take some pictures, and then perhaps we'll just show you the final results. All right, see you in a bit.
So